Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again here in Toronto Global Studio. I'm Michael Kashkarian. We're doing another Boardroom Brief, and we have in studio here Mark Goad with Alan Canada. Well, Mark, fantastic to have you here in the studio today at Toronto Global. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. I think we've known each other for maybe about a year and a half or so. Working with Alan has been one of the best experiences of my career, seeing your journey and expanding here. Maybe for the sake of our audience, you can tell us who you are and what is Alan to start?
Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm the GM for Allen in Canada. Allen is one of the largest, fastest growing health insurance provider, integrated payer provider. So, a combination of insurance carrier services for health and life, in addition to vertically integrated virtual care services focused on longevity and engagement and wellness. And I'm sure a whole host of other topics we can get into over the next little bit. It's a large company in Europe, publicly scaled to 500 million in ARR, growing 50% year over year. My background is venture capital, worked in funds in Toronto and San Francisco, and I had never seen a company doing this well, growing that quickly at that scale. And, I was working in the healthcare space after leaving my role in venture capital and was approached by the team to help open up the Canadian market. And you don't have to dig that deep to know we haven't set up a new insurance carrier in Canada since the 1950s. I would say some things have changed in healthcare since then. So the opportunity to come and to compete, to deliver like an amazing low cost solution focused on prevention was like too good to pass up. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I can imagine. I know healthcare is certainly an interesting topic to talk about here in Canada, and would definitely like to dive more into that about Alan, and what you're doing in Canada, how you're differentiating. But maybe you mentioned your background.
Yeah.
Let's dive a bit more into that. I mean, I know you kind of
Sure.
made it a bit more low key, but you mentioned working in Silicon Valley. You mentioned investing. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I graduated from the Ivy Business Program at Western, got right into, as you're supposed to, a consulting job, working at a big software company. Fortunately, I knew I wanted to be in tech and I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew tech. And this was back in like 2014 when like now you go to Ivy, you go to Smith, like
Sure.
Google's there, Facebook, but like back then no one was there. It
Yeah.
was like just starting to happen, I think. So learned a lot about enterprise software and knew this was back in the time like 20-minute VC was starting up. Harry Stebbins, you know that show?
Of course.
And it was like, wow, this venture thing is amazing. I was on TechCrunch every single day, every single morning, and was like, I have to figure out a way to get to the Valley. It was like a couple years in my career, and fortunately, at the time, SAP was spinning up a corporate venture studio. So they were launching their own fund. They had previously seeded as an LP into different funds, and I was fortunate enough to get that role. So moved down, ran strategy and operations for a fund, and then learned like my first like how do you write a venture investment, how do you write an investment memo. Did about 20 million in deals on like pre-seed and seed stage companies. A strategic investor having the backing of the world's largest, at the time, the world's largest enterprise software company was like really interesting. We saw a lot of cool stuff, but knew I wanted to come home, be closer to family and stuff, and had an opportunity to join Omers in the venture capital team. Worked on 150 million of deals, mostly Series C, D, kind of later stage, middle stage venture, and then left there to start my own healthcare company just after the pandemic hit. We were selling virtual care services online through the pandemic, letting Canadians connect with therapists, mental health therapists, nutritional therapists, physiotherapists, based on their needs. The thesis was that, like, as the pandemic disrupted the geographic nexus, like I don't have to go to a clinic to see someone. Like, will that change our preferences of like, do we want to align with a therapist who specializes in a specific type of social anxiety that I'm experiencing, who has a background in, certified diabetes education, or has a sport background, a running injury person, because I'm a runner and that's how, like, can we make healthcare more personalized when we remove the need to be co-located? That was a really interesting experience. We worked with 3 of the top 10 insurance carriers, got deals done there, worked with a bunch of the big brokers, learned about healthcare and how it's delivered in Canada. And, we spend $400 billion a year on healthcare, but 60 billion of that is private. And we never like to say the words private and healthcare in the same sentence, but like, that's the math. Like, it's actually a pretty big industry, and learned a lot about the existing incumbent carriers and how they operate and how they think and how you have to act to get a deal done and their timelines to get deals done. And that leads into Allen.
Gotcha. Well, we will, I promise, talk more about Alan in just a moment. But you mentioned I'd like to pull on this thread about you going down to San Francisco. So, here at Toronto Global, our main mission is helping international companies expand into the Toronto region and across Canada. But actually, another core thing related to what we do is talking about talent. And obviously, there's a lot of Canadian talent that ends up finding its way to the United States, right? Especially Silicon Valley. Tell us more about what that experience was like for you. Maybe the initial kind of moving down there. Did you find any differences in the culture? And then coming back, what was that like as well? So going down and then coming back.
It was transformative.
Yeah.
And again, like you can make the argument, I don't know how compelling it is, but like you can make the argument it's different now, but like living in the heart of San Francisco, working in a fund in South Park across from Kleiner and all the great funds I've ever read about, like it's it's not the same scale in Canada. Like is in 2025, can you recruit great talent and grow great teams here? I think a lot of people are proving you can. But like for who I was with my no network, or like no one in my family worked in tech, like I needed that experience and to be in a room where like every event, every party you went to, like everybody is building a new great thing.
But to your point, I do think that, so I've been at Toronto Global for about 7, 8 years, and I've seen a couple of cycles.
Sure.
And to your point, I do see some difference in growth and our own unique story coming out. I do wish us as Toronto would be a bit more proud, right? Out there and kind of banging the chest. We do have a lot going on here and telling
Yeah.
that story. And I think we're getting there. So on that point, when you came back, like what was that feeling about like coming back, and how did you see the ecosystem here? Where did you see, because you started your own company, was that kind of, did you have that itch as to do so coming back and starting your own thing?
I think I felt for me personally,
Hmm.
like I felt like venture like I gave me the permission to start something. Like when you spend all this time, and again, I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. Like I never, and like you spend 4 or 5 years meeting with like fascinating, super successful entrepreneurs, and you're like you just see trends and patterns and similarities, and like you just build. At least for me, I needed that time to like mature and build my own narrative of like, oh no, I can do those things. I have had those experiences. Like
Hmm.
I had dabbled in stuff on the side throughout my career,
Hmm.
and it was skill acquisition, maybe not intentional skill acquisition, but like that, like that for me gave me permission to be like, no, like this is something I could do, but I don't think I would have gotten there without having spent that time in venture and meeting these incredible Canadian entrepreneurs.
Hmm. Well, kind of pivoting more then to your latest work with Alan, or rather, sorry, just a point before that, talking about healthcare in Canada.
Yeah.
It's an interesting space to get into, right? Speaking more generally at first, what is something that people may misunderstand about the health benefits that we have here in Canada?
We focus very narrowly on like group, so employer right now,
At Alan.
small business. Yeah, we at Allen focus on that. So I think it's like a very opaque market. I think it's also like a pretty complicated topic. Like
Hmm.
an insurance plan, when you're running an insurance plan in a company, it's typically falls on someone's like side of their desk, often HR, it could be ops, could be finance. And it's like not necessarily like, hey, your whole job is to become a health benefits expert. It's like, no, you have to do this, but also 100 other things.
Hmm.
So I think like it puts people in an unfair position where like you just can't afford to dedicate enough time to understand it. I think I wish people better understood of like how concentrated the market is. It's a story like that Canadians should be familiar with because we all like run around like, wow, what a surprise. Like we have 2 grocery stores, we have 3 telcos, we have 5 banks. I'm sorry if they fund you, but like like it's the truth. They're like, guess what? We have 3 insurance companies that dominate 80% of a $60 billion market. They're 3 times more profitable than the telcos, and they have an in -8 net promoter score. The telcos are -2. Like, what?
Hmm.
And we're all just like no one's talking about it because no one's tried to do anything about it since the 1950s.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, then let's take that head on. So leading into Alan, well, actually, how did you hear about the Allen opportunity, right? So again, like when we're working with our international companies, we often find that working with them where they may be, in this case, France,
Yeah.
and working with the team over there. And as I was doing that, suddenly your name started to pop up. Oh, Mark's our new Canada GM. I'm like, who's Mark? And then we got introduced, and it was good to get to know you. But how did you find it?
I got introduced through Ontario Teachers Pension Plan,
Gotcha.
who are led this series, I should know, some late series of
Mm.
venture growth out of the UK office.
Right.
Both my parents, my sister, my aunts and uncles are all teachers.
Okay.
So there was a fairly good alignment. I was also trying to build a healthcare company and kept getting blocked at every channel by the insurance carriers. So I was somewhat motivated and understood the space really well.
Mhm.
And like very passionate about Alan's mission of making prevention the core of an insurance experience, which is not how it works today in Canada.
Well, so tell us more about that. Like, why is now the right time for Alan to be, building here and expanding here into Canada?
You can make an argument 50 years ago was the right time, but we just happen to get around to it right
Right.
now. No, I think there's been like fundamental shifts, and like you're seeing it now with some of these fundings around. We're getting much more cognizant of our health. I think the devices that we're all wearing, these longevity startups, the Hubermans of the world blowing up. Like I see a confluence of factors of like a personal interest that I've never seen previously. Like I've been spent last week with my parents, and like no one at the table was drinking at dinner, which is like insane to say from like our generations ago of like I think we're just becoming incredibly more aware of the deleterious effects of the things that we do and how that can impact our health span, our lifespan, and those types of things. So I see a real confluence of factors. Add in what's happening with AI and some of the stuff that Alan is doing, co-founding companies like Mistral out at the office. Like there is a really unique opportunity to intersect and meet Canadians where they are, that I don't see that need being met when I talk to people that are designing benefits plans. Like
Gotcha.
we're telling you a story that like isn't being told in Canada, and that's a great thing because we're just giving, Canadians another option on the table when they haven't had that many, and or at least they've been the same for the past several decades.
Gotcha. Maybe as a little bit of a tangent, we're talking about Alan in Canada. I'm curious, why not Alan in the United States? Why choose Canada over the U.S.?
That was my first point when I met the leadership team. I was like, hey, I think you missed. You wanted New York.
Yeah.
The U.S. is the world's largest healthcare market.
Yeah.
Like literally like $4 trillion a year.
Yeah.
If you look at it from like a step back, like from a risk perspective, Canada, we take on about like 150. These are highly average numbers, but like, $150 of risk per month per employee. It's roughly what an insurance plan costs for health and dental. In Europe, it's like 50 euros. So we're like 3 times riskier. Risk from a purely like insurance perspective, not like Canadians are risky people.
Yeah.
You can make the argument we're not. The US, 1,500. So we're already 3x higher the risk threshold than this company is used to. To go for 30x might be a little bit too uncomfortable. So I don't think there's any near-term plans to go to the US. The market is like very different, and the risk quantum, and like think of an insurance company, we have to have, capital requirements and hold cash aside. Like if your risk factor goes up 30x, your capital requirements does. So I think there's a reason why their market is shaped that way as well.
Gotcha. Well, then moving towards your role in leading Alan in Canada and being the GM, tell us more about what was day one like for you, coming into it, building the team locally. Tell us about the earlier stages of that. How did you envision it?
Yeah, we did like, and it'd be interested, in chatting with some of the other like Canadian GMs. It's a weird role.
Yeah.
Like it's a mix of like bringing transplants over from the core organization.
Right.
So like making sure that those cultural elements of like what's made Alan such an incredible success, a runaway success in Europe. Like, hey, they know what they're doing over there. Like we should bring that over and have that as part of our DNA here, while also bringing on local Canadian talent to provide that localization and context. The reality is, if you step back, like the concerns of global OECD health systems are like pretty homogeneous. like if you ask like what are the top 3 French like health system concerns in Alan's view, I'm sure a lot of different opinions. It's like medical deserts, access to primary care, chronic disease. They seem like 3 things that we may struggle with in Canada. Yeah. So it's like systemically, we're trying to solve the same problems. Where the rubber hits the road, how that integrates with the care system here, for sure needs to be localized. But yeah, so starting with like what was good and working, layering on Canadian context. We have a lengthy regulatory process here, and I'm on record for saying that's a good thing. Like I don't want my parents to have insurance policies that they file a claim and the company goes under. Like that's not it. But it is a thorough process here. So for us, it was like keep the team small, lean, scrappy, learn a lot, start the regulatory process, get going on our journey. Now we're in Ontario, Alberta, BC, and we'll plan to be in every province across Canada by the end of this year, which is pretty aggressive timeline if you think about it, because we went live with our first customers in May of this year.
Gotcha. Well, kind of, you brought this up a little bit. Canada GM is a little bit of a interesting role to have, right? And how would you kind of talk about that role. For example, when you were speaking to the HQ in Paris, right? And they were saying, Mark, spin up the team in Canada, let's get going. Were there any kind of Canadian contextual things that you had to explain to them? You mentioned kind of the fragmentation of the market a little bit from a regulatory perspective. Was there anything else, even from perhaps a talent perspective, that you had to kind of say, hey, this is Canada, this is how we're doing it? Just curious, because again, that Canada GM role is something that we see at Toronto Global as being quite critical to the company's success in the long term.
I like to think I'm very critical to our success.
Of course.
But yeah, I'd say, look, like it depends on the context. Like
Right.
this again was like a 500 million ARR business growing 50% year over year.
Yeah.
It's like my job is to like not reinvent that wheel. Like
Right.
that, I don't know how to build that wheel.
Right.
I tried, we couldn't get it done. Right. So it's like, having that humility of like, I really do think my job is like taking like 80%, like take it and try the model, whether it's the hiring model, the band system, compensation frameworks, like take it. 80% is probably going to be great. Do we need to localize less? 10 to 20% is kind of how I think about those frameworks. And like that is held true for like pretty much every facet of my role thus far. Like it requires that end localization to make it resonate here. But overall, there hasn't been like fundamental, like, oh my gosh, like that won't work here. Because at the end of the day, right, it's like a talent strategy, a go-to-market strategy. Like their markets are not that different.
Right.
It can feel different sometimes, but they're really not.
Understood. Well, one thing I do know from our previous conversations is kind of the in-office strategy, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about because we all try to talk about how many days in the office do we have, how do you build team cohesion, especially from a starting perspective. Tell us more about your thoughts on that.
I have like a very strong, like, strong thoughts loosely held. Like I have a very strong thought of it. I really think you want to be like fully remote and like all in on that strategy, or like pretty much fully in office, like 4 to 5. And I see everybody being caught in the middle in this like awkwardness of like, how much space do you need? Like I friends run companies and they're like, yeah, like people are complaining because they come in, twice a week and there's like not a dedicated desk or not a nice workspace. And then therefore they don't come in, but like we can't invest in more office space because no one comes in, and then you get caught in this. Like, so I really believe like you should either be at either end of the poles.
Yeah.
I think starting something 0 to 1 for me and my skill set, my communication, like there are amazing managers who have built great companies fully remote. I don't think I have that skill set. So let's play to where we're strong and like that delivers the great outcome. And that for us was in person. And I really enjoy it. Like I think we do things that make it fun to be there, and a lunch perk, and like we invest in that. And I think it's great. We all have lunch every single day around a single table. And like number of times would be like someone from ops talking to product, talking to care, talking to sales. Like it happens almost every single day.
Yeah.
And I think it's been like a huge advantage for us.
No, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's different perspectives that you can have and pros and cons, but it's those serendipitous moments that we talk about, and it's sometimes hard to quantify, but when you see it in action, it's quite powerful.
Yeah.
So then maybe kind of pivoting towards your again focus on healthcare, right? I know that this is something that's again you've worked in it. It's close to you. You're on the board of a group with CAMH. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. CAMH is Canada's largest research and primary care facility focused on mental health. Incredible organization. It's helped my family directly. So I got connected through someone working in the tech ecosystem. I was at the time writing about the intersection of technology and health, particularly mental health, and was super interested in like what's happening and some of the innovation, some of it referencing research coming out of CAMH. Like there's global leading research coming out of CAMH.
Absolutely.
And I got connected with this board, and like, again, not in my background or experience, like, why does a charity have a board? What do you guys do? And like found out about some of the initiatives they're running, and been fortunate enough to be brought into the chair role after volunteering there for 5 years in different capacities, and really pushing us to operate like a startup in some ways. Like we have technical marketing. We're all in on Reels and TikTok, and like really like the foundation sometimes looks at me and like, really that? And I'm like, trust me, this is like where the young folks are going, which I don't think I can call myself anymore, but that's a different conversation. So it's been amazing. We've invented new event types. We've grown social audience massively. We've become like a strategic pillar underneath CAMH of like Our job is to engage, it's the name, CAMH Engage, engage a large audience who maybe you can't afford a $10,000 table at the CAMH Gala, but maybe you can afford $50 to a pickleball tournament. And like, those are the things we can educate you about. Like, what does CAMH do? What does it mean to be in philanthropy and to give back? And maybe you can't write a $10 million check today, but in 15 years, Michael, maybe you do write a $200 million check because you invested in your daughter's husband who ended up creating Shopify.
There you go.
It's a real story. That's pretty
Right?
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. I completely agree. I think some of our institutions, especially research and health institutions that we have, CAMH being one of them, when I talk to companies around the world, especially if they're involved in health, they know about kind of the leadership of our health institutions and the research that's coming out of them. So it's fantastic to hear your kind of leadership and support there. Maybe kind of, again, on this theme more, a bit more personal and kind of more looking at your leadership style. What's something that when you're in the office energizes you, right? And kind of maybe keeps you up at night, but in a good way, like in an excited way. Like you got to write down that idea or talk to the team about that the next day.
Winning cures a lot of ails. Like growing and winning and like taking on new markets, launching new things, and having them being successful. I've yet to work in a company or know of friends and networks building interesting stuff where it's like people want to be contributing to something that's like making a positive impact,
Yeah.
but is like growing and showing them growth opportunities. And like it's magic when you can align those things of like a personal motivation and interest with like a successful business model. And I'd say like honestly that's what we failed with at Curve. Like we had something that like patients love, was super low cost. We have amazing emails I still have saved of like, hey, you connected with a therapist who helped save my life. But we didn't figure out the business part of it like at scale. And that's where like I think what Alan has kind of cracked there of like combining this mission around prevention and helping people live longer with a business model that's highly disruptive to incumbents who might struggle to match our pace, our pricing, and our support.
Well, that's also very compelling to hear. And so I guess maybe continuing just on that thread to pull it one last time, if we were to sit down again, maybe a year from now, and you're to say, Mike, from our last conversation, this was the best year that we've had. What would make that year the best?
Yeah, for us, it's like really straightforward. I like predictable businesses, and I like to think we run one here. It's like we're going to be Canada-wide. We'll be in every province. And every small business under 30 employees has heard about Alan and seen our offer and have been like, wow, that's incredible. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
And that is like what we're hearing right now in small batches. And if we could scale that to every tech ecosystem in Toronto and Calgary and Vancouver and Montreal, I think we'll be well on our way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time. It's always great to talk to you and for you to share this story with us. So, we have our own VP of HR ready and lined up to hear from you. But all the best in what you're doing. You're building a great team and glad you're building it here in Toronto.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Of course.